What's up everyone? You want 3D mesh buttons that are truly 3D and eventually some camera movement? Then you are at the right place. Let's get started. Alright, let me quickly go through how this is set up and works. We of course have the 3D button that we're going to set up. We have the manager that's going to hold all the functionality of all buttons. So we have everything nice and easy in one place. And optional, as I said, we have this camera view system, which you can directly assign to buttons. You can select each button or any button you want and directly pick any actor from the scene. So click on that view target there, and you even have options to play around with how this transition is happening. You have the camera blend time on the then selected view target that you have placed manually, which is deciding how long the blend is going to take, and the exponential is going to support the blend function, so it's going to make the effect stronger or weaker. It's going to alternate the effect. We also have a transition sound, which is fired when we have clicked the button and start to fly, and we have a arriving sound that is fired obviously when we are arriving. On the buttons we have the goal rotation, which we are going to have after the after hovering, and we have the obviously start rotation. You can play around with them, it's easy to drag them here. We have the rotation pivot offset, which is where the actual how do you say, where this shield, where this button will actually rotate. So if I would change that offset here, for example, it would, you know, rotate from this place. Okay, so let's start by creating the 3D mesh button. Open up your content browser and right click, choose blueprint class, then click on actor and call it BP 3D mesh button. Once you created this, open up the 3D mesh button. Now it's empty, obviously add a static mesh to it. Now call the static mesh pivot. Add another static mesh and drag it into the pivot, call it button. Assign your button mesh here. Add a text render and drag it into the button. Adjust the text so it's correctly where you want it. It's not necessary to do it here, you can do it later individually for each button placed in the world. Now copy the pivot here and paste it in so it's not parented to anything. You see, they are both here individually. Call this pivot 2 and call the button with the same button assigned that you have, button collision. Optionally, add a point light. Drop the point light into the button or leave it as is, so it's going to highlight only when the button is at the top. Okay, that's it with the setup for the meshes. Got this, and now let's make it tweakable. Head over to the construction script, which is in the My Blueprint tab below functions or on the top right next to event graph. Right click and set tags. Now drag out of tags and type make, which will make an array, and now right click on this empty none here and type promote to variable, which will create a variable here. Call this variable tag and make it instance editable and expose on spawn so we can see it in Blueprint. Nice, now we set up the tag, make sure it looks like this. Now get the text render that we added before. Drag out of the text render and say set text. And then drag the text into the value of the set text. In order to set the start rotation, drag out the pivot and pivot 2. Drag out of any pivot variable and set relative rotation. Now right click on the new rotation here and promote it to variable. Call this variable anim start rotation. Drag it into the set relative rotation and make sure both pivots are attached to set relative rotation here. Highlight the anim start rotation and make it instance editable as well as exposed on spawn. let's do the pivot offset. Get the button and the button collision from your component list. Drag out of either and say set relative location. Put both into this node and tick teleport. Now drag out of any of these two buttons and say get relative location. And now drag out of this and type plus. Right click where it says 0, 0, 0 and promote it to a variable. Call this variable rotation pivot offset. Highlight this variable, make it instance editable and expose on spawn and hook it up. Now the sum of both vectors, put it into the new location of the set relative location and hook it up. So it looks just like this. Okay, let's hop over to the final transform of the button collision. So in order to set this up, we can just drag out of this and say set relative transform, which is what we want to do. Now we're gonna tick teleport and right click on new transform and promote it to a variable. We're gonna call it collision transform. Now right click on this variable and say split struct pin. Drag out of button collision now and get relative transform. Because we want to mix the already existing transform with the other, we have to add both together. Now drag out of your variable collision transform location, click plus and hook it up with the actual transform. Do the same for rotator, but type combine. Okay, and for scale, we also just multiply them with plus. Now, in the set relative transform, right click on the new transform and hook up the sum of the locations, the rotators and the scale. Now make sure to hook it up so everything is connected as is. This is what you have created. Make sure this is all set up like this. Okay, so now let's hook up the functionality of the button. Let's start at begin play. Drag out button collision and pivot to. Drag out of either one and set collision enabled. Drag that out and connect both to it just like shown here. Now drag into nowhere and press B. Then click while holding down B and this will create a branch. Right click on a condition and promote it to a variable. Call the variable just like here and hook it up just like here. This into the branch and the variable itself, of course, again has to be instance editable and expose on spawn. This is just if you want to use the collision, the background collision that we have set up or not. You can enable or disable it with this switch. Okay. Now, if this is true, then obviously we're not going to turn it off. If it's false, we're going to turn the collision off for both of these collision components here. Alright, now, optional, in case you want it, drag out the point light here and set visibility. Alright, then tick set visibility to not and propagate to children, whatever, maybe you have children to it, it doesn't matter. I just keep it ticked. The timeline we can't set yet, we can do that in a minute, and this is also, like I said, is all optional, it's just for the camera movement. If you get the button here and get relative transform, wow, get relative transform here, and now you can right click this variable here, promote it to a variable and call it pre-transform. It's not going to be instance editable or expose on spawn, okay, because we are setting this at runtime and nobody needs to know what this is. Now in order to get this timeline here, we're going to right click somewhere and say timeline. Now scroll down a little because it's hiding often. And this is the timeline, so call it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. As we added this, we have added a component which is called a timeline. In my case, it's called timeline 0. In your case, it's called timeline. So we're going to go with timeline now. Now, you got timeline. Drag that out of the components here. Like, don't be confused. It's not in your components here where you add them. It's in your variables at the top. There is a components drop down. Use that components drop down and drag timeline out. You can hold control or you just get timeline. When you drag and hold control, it's gonna get. When you drag and hold alt, it's going to set, just so you know. Okay, now drag out of the timeline and say set play rate. Okay, choose that node, hook it up, and right click on the set rate, make it promote to a variable, and call it animation speed. Make this instance editable and expose on spawn, because we want to control how these buttons are actually rotating. I'm sorry, this is actually not optional. These two are optional here. My bad. Okay, now animation speed exposed on spawn and instance editable, and set to a variable, not 0. Make sure it's not 0, otherwise you're not going to play anything. Okay, now we set up the begin play. Make sure it looks like this. Pretty easy. Sorry for being so slow, but I'd rather have people get it than others not. Okay, now create, right click into nowhere and say custom event. Now call this event hovered. Hovered. Okay, so it looks like this. Do this again, custom event, and call it unhover. And do one more, right click, custom event, and call it clicked. Okay. Alright, now let's start with hovered. Like, audio is optional in case you want it. Play sound, like right click into nowhere, play sound at location. Drag out of the location and say get actor location. This is what you're gonna do. Nice. Now you are playing this sound at this location, but in order to be able to play it at a location, you need to give it a attenuation. If you don't have an attenuation, it doesn't matter. Just right click into your content browser, open it by control space clicking, and then type atten. So this is going to create an attenuation, and you can just, you know, call it whatever you want and use that. It doesn't matter. Okay, now we have the attenuation. Attenuation is for how far you hear things in the world. You can tweak the values if you want. I'm not going to do it right now. Also, right click on the volume multiplier so you can control the loudness of your sounds. Make sure this is also instance editable and expose on spawn. You can leave it as is, called volume multiplier. I already have this, that's why I deleted it. Then right click on sound and promote to variable. Your graph is going to look like this. Okay. Right click on the sound and promote to variable. You're gonna have the hover sound, which is going to look like this. Now, if you have a hover sound like this, right click on it and convert to validated get. This will make it, if it's valid, then it's going to be true here, and if not, then obviously not. Make sure this is attached into the sound, so everything looks like this. Hook it up so valid goes to the sound and not valid passes the sound and goes on. Create a branch here. Right click on the condition, promote to variable and call it use light. Make it instance editable and expose on spawn. Hook everything after the sound into it. Now hook the true into the point light, drag out the point light and say set visibility. Check visibility and propagate to children. Out of the false, we skip the visibility here and go directly into our timeline. We have created our timeline. Drag your timeline here and drag both of false and from visibility into play. Now let's set up the timeline. Double click the timeline and type a length on the top here. Type 1 for 1 second. Now we have 1 second of play. Obviously we have we can add here a float to it. So add a float track and call it it doesn't matter. I never call it anything. So now with this track that you have here, this track is going to be outputted here. So what's happening is that this value here is going to be representing the interpolation for the rotation of this pivot slash button. Okay, now out of the update we're gonna get our pivot because that's what we are going to rotate. And only rotate. We're not gonna rotate the button collision because that would create other issues. So just drag out of the pivot and say set relative rotation. Set relative rotation. Make sure this is set to teleport, and now you're gonna drag out of the rotation and say lerp rotator, which is going to open this precious thing here. So it's gonna look like here below. Now drag the new track or whatever you have here called into the alpha of this and make sure shortest path is true. So it's wired just like here. And now the next two steps are, if right click on the lerp A and call it anim start rotation, make it instance editable and expose on spawn, and right click on B, make it a variable, promote to variable, and call it anim goal rotation, make it instance editable and expose on spawn. Okay, now we got everything set up here, everything is hooked up, make sure it looks like this. Now let's go out of the unhovered event, just copy the whole audio here and paste it here, but make sure that you delete the hover sound. So let me do this for you. You paste this here, but you delete this, you right click here and say promote to variable and call it unhover sound. Make it instance editable and expose on spawn. So you have hover sound, sorry, instance editable and expose on spawn, and you have unhover sound with the same. Okay, so you can assign them from blueprint, which is pretty helpful. Now we check if it's valid, we're gonna play it, hook it up, okay, so it looks like this. The point light here, you can just, by highlighting something and pressing Ctrl D, it's going to paste this under your mouse, or duplicate it under your mouse. Now you got the point light and you're gonna say set visibility again, or just paste the whole thing and set visibility to false, just like here, and hook that up into the reverse. Alright, now we have set up the basics of how we are going to rotate this button when we actually are hovering or unhovering, but we have not set up that anything is hovering or unhovering yet. We are about to do that. So you probably wondered, hey, but what is with the clicked? That is right. Let's go do the click as well. Now out of the click we are going to create something that we are going to call and bind to from the main menu manager, which is going to be called an event dispatcher. So wherever your variables are and your my blueprint with event graph, construction script, etc., event dispatchers and my gosh, my language today. Event dispatchers at the bottom. Just click the plus and add an dispatcher here. Call it selected. And on the top right in the details panel, you're going to see here inputs. Now you're going to click on new parameter and say, and you're going to add a parameter, okay? Which will be name. And you call it tag and actor. This one. Object reference, call it target view after click. Alright, now, if you have set this up, then you can drag this out and say call. What are you going to pass here is the tag variable that you have set before and the target view after click. And the target view after click is instance editable and expose on spawn. So right click, promote to variable and make target view after click a instance editable variable, so we can set it from blueprint in the editor. Now, optional, of course, you're gonna play audio here. You can drag from the location of the play sound at location here, if you have created this, like play sound at location. And the sound is your clicked sound, so right click here, promote to variable, call it clicked sound and make it instance editable in expose on spawn. And attach the same multiplier here. Make sure that you have the attenuation. If you pasted this, you don't have to redo this. It's just because this is another node for me. Okay, and now optional, right click on the clicked sound here and make sure that if it's valid, it's going to play the sound. If it's not valid, we're going to skip this. Okay, great. Now you also have the clicked with the location here, because when you drag this in here, you're going to create this new pin. All right. This part is very optional. It's for breaking the plate. I don't know if you like it. I don't know even if it's helpful in any way. If you like it, drag out of the button and set simulate physics to true. And detach from component. Hook that up, say keep world on all. Then out of the button again, say add impulse. Add location. This is gonna give you this node. And now you're gonna get the player pawn, okay? Because we have created a camera here and we're gonna get the actor forward vector, which is where he is looking in 3D space. And now this is basically just a tiny step, but we can make it bigger. So if we type here multiply or the little star, then we can right click on the bottom here and say float double precision. And this way we can type in one value which will be taken for all values. We're going to type -325, whatever. You can play around with this value, drag this into the impulse and the location. You're going to take the same location from the clicked here, drag it into this location. In my case, I waited 5 seconds until I reset the button. Reset button is an event that I created, custom event, and you call it reset button. Okay. Then you're gonna go here and say reset button because you just created this event, and then you can hook it up. So this way you get the reset button here. Then you drag out the button again and, you know, set simulate physics to off here, tick it off, and attach component to component. Which means we want to attach the button again to the pivot, right? So we get the pivot here because the button is attached to the pivot. Now we're going to reattach the button to the pivot because it was flying around in space. So the parent is the pivot and the target is the button. Hook it up like this and put it into the chain here. Keep relative everywhere. And after that, remember we set up the pre-transform here above, which is optional because it's just for this here. Drag out of the button, set relative transform. Set relative transform. And now drag the pre-transform variable that you already have, put it in and click teleport. Bang. Now you got it. Hook it up. It's going to be looking like this. So let's take a look at what we have created here. We got this optional breakplate. We have the on clicked, on hovered. So it's probably more sober in your case, but this is what you have in the 3D mesh button. There's no other functions. Okay. Let's continue. So the next step is to actually set up a camera pawn and the view target. In order to do that, we're gonna right click, blueprint class, actor, call it BP view target. open up the view target. I gave it a sphere collision so I can see it in space. Go to visibility and make it visible, but tick hidden in game to true. Okay. Add a text render there, so you just, this is unnecessary, it's just so you see that there is actually something, okay? And the arrow is showing where it points. It's all unnecessary because when you're in the level you can also just, you know, grab the camera and drag it around, and now you're gonna directly see the view that you have when you are at this point in the main menu. Okay, so now that we have this set up correctly and we have the camera here as well, camera, drag it in, put it here, all easy. If your lines from the sphere are a little thinner, click on the sphere here and line thickness, make it thicker. Awesome. Even change the color if you like. Alright, man, let's go. We got this. View target done. Close the view target. Open your content browser again. Right click, click on blueprint class and click on pawn. Call it BP. Camera pawn. Open up the camera pawn and add a camera. And now we have the camera pawn created. Now we're going to create one more thing, which is going to be an actor component. Open your content browser, right click, click on blueprint class and click actor component and call it AC for actor component. 3D main menu interaction component. Okay, once you created that, open that up. And now, so we go back to the camera pawn and make sure that you add this just created actor component to it. So AC underscore when you click on add, and then you're gonna add this main menu interaction component to it. Okay, you don't have to do anything else. This is the interaction component. Without it, it can't be used. If you are not the camera pawn, make sure this is attached to whatever you are using in the main menu. Okay. In order to make this usable, you have to assign it to your game mode. If you don't have a game mode, just create one. Create a game mode, call it GM game mode and save it. And in the GM game mode now, when you open it up, it's either gonna look like this or like only fields. There's a little blue thing here you can press then. On the bottom right, you can see default pawn. That's where you're going to assign your camera pawn, okay? And then you're going to put this game mode, GM game mode, in here. You're gonna go select game mode base class, and then you're going to select the game mode that you have just created. As easy as this. Okay, so this way you are sure that when you are spawned, you are really the camera, and the camera has this component that actually interacts. Okay, right, so let's start creating the actor component. Open it up, we already have created it, and from begin play we're gonna get player controller, and we're gonna drag out and set input mode, game and UI, leave the widget to focus empty, and now drag out controller again and say show mouse, set show mouse cursor to be true, ticket to be true. Now set timer by event, which will create a timer which will loop. Now put it on 0.05 and make it looping. Create a custom event, oops, and hook that up into the event, like hook the timer into the event here. You can call the event loop, okay? Make sure it's connected like this. Now this is fired every 0.05 seconds. First thing we're going to do is hold down B and click into the graph, or just right branch, that's the same. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get player controller. And now we get hit result, get hit result under cursor by channel. Now we're going to trace complex, visibility, that's fine. And we are going to right click on the hit result here and say, is this a blocking hit? If not, we B and click again and make another branch and say, it's not a blocking hit, but is it an initial overlap? Okay, so now we cased out, there is nothing. And here's actually something. Now, in order to access our 3D mesh buttons, which are actors, we can just cast to the 3D mesh button, okay? So when that's fire or anything was found, we are going to cast to the mesh button, which is just set up like here, okay? And now from the mesh button, there is an important thing, which is going to be the last button. So what you're going to do is you're going to right click, promote to variable, and call this last button, okay? So you have the last button, it's probably looking like this, but you're going to erase this and you're going to get the last button out and convert it to a validated get here, okay? And you're going to say, hey, so this cast actually works. Nice. Now we're going to make another branch by pressing B and clicking into the graph and checking if this button here is actually, like, drag out of it and type 2 times equal. So now we are comparing if that last button, or you can do it like this if you wish, it's both the same. If this last button is actually the same as the last button, because if it is, we're not going to do anything, which we're going to see here, right? But if it's not the same button, is the last button active? Is it not the same as the current? Then we're going to unhover the previous button, which is why we are saving the previous button. And we're going to hover the new button here, right? So let's do this. Drag out of this and say unhover. Okay, put this in here. And now the next is you're going to drag out of the cast here, which is the new actor that we got, and make it hovered. Okay, so this one was unhovered, this one is hovered, and of course what we got to do is we got to set the last button then to be the same as the currently hovered one. Nice. So now we got this set up. This is the top here, and now there's only these cases here missing, which is when cast fails or there is false. So let's go down here so you can see it easily. The next step is attach false and cast failed to another check here of last button if it's valid. And if that is actually valid, we can unhover this button because we are not going anywhere anymore. And of course we have to reset the last button, means we keep it empty here. Okay, if you have done this, then you have this. So now we have the loop for making it hover and unhover, and eventually this would already work. Now there's one more thing in the interaction component which actually makes us interact with the button, and that's the clicked event. Now we're gonna right click and say left mouse button, boom, there it is. We're gonna drag the last button out and make it a validated get. Hook the pressed into it, and from the last button here you're gonna say clicked, because that is actually our clicked function. Now where did we click? Well, we clicked from the location where our cursor was in world space. So just drag out the location here and drag it in. If you've done that and hooked it up to left mouse, it's gonna be looking like this. Okay, optional if you want that. You could say here any key. You can press O and click, it's gonna make do once, or you're just gonna say once. hook the pressed into once, and then you're gonna get all actors of class. And which actor? It's gonna be the main menu manager, which we don't have yet, so we can't do this yet. But that brings us to the next step. Before we do this, let's create the main menu manager. So open up your content browser, right click, blueprint class, actor, and call it BP main menu manager. Okay, once created, open it up and go to begin play, type right click and type get all actors of class, and use or search for the 3D mesh button. Right click on the out actors and promote it to a variable. Call it all buttons or whatever, it doesn't matter. And then hold down F and click into the graph, or type for each to get a for each loop. Hook up the array into the array and drag out of the array element and say assign, which will create a bind event and also a event that's fired whenever this is fired in the button. So just for quick recap, in the button on clicked, we are firing this call select, saying which tag we have and which target view after click we have. So that's what we assign to, and that's what we are receiving here. So make sure it looks like this. And after the selected event, ignore this for now, we're going to set this up in a second. Drag out of the tag here and say switch. Now you can add any name here, so you have to actually take the same names as you put tags on the buttons. I'm gonna explain that soon, but for you, you're gonna be having like play, probably, quit, back, etc. Right? You can play around with this. This is just a basic setup. You can remove the default pin, so you just have those. Now you drag out of this event and put it in here. And on play, you could say whatever. You know, you could say open level by name, or open level by object reference. Nice. Open level by object reference, so you could choose a level from the list, and whenever you click play then and you set this up, it's gonna fire this because it is bound to this event. I hope that is somewhat clear. I just assigned something to quit, so you can see that there is a widget that's being spawned here, and after 2 seconds it's being removed again. I'll show you that real quick. That's the quit. Okay. Alright guys, we're getting close. Let's do the final thing, the go to target and the final camera setup here. We're gonna create 2 custom events. Custom event, one is start menu, and one is go to target. Okay, go to target. So when you set those both up, you're gonna highlight go to target, click on inputs here, and add an actor input. Call that actor target actor. Right click and promote it to a variable, so you have it like this. From the top, drag out and copy the target actor here on the bottom left in your variables. Right click, duplicate, it's going to create another actor. Call this actor pre-click view. This one we're going to make instance editable and expose on spawn, because we're going to set it up through blueprint. When we go on our manager here, we have the pre-click view, which will be whatever camera we will be given to after first clicking something. Click, and there it is. Okay. So drag this out, make a validated get from the new pre-click view and set it to be the target actor here. So this way we can just pipe it into the same function. Now we're going to get the target actor and cast this to our view target. Okay. Now we're going to right click and promote this to a variable, so it's the same like this. You don't have to rename it. Next step is going to get player pawn and get actor transform. And the transform, we're gonna right click and promote to a variable so it looks like here. Call it previous actor transform. Now, in order to access the variables from the view target, we need variables in the view target. Since we have already set up the view target, let's head back into the view target and assign some variables to it. Now, we're gonna have two sounds, so you can just add a sound base here and call it transitioning sound. Then you copy it, paste it, and call it arriving sound. You're gonna make them instance editable and expose on spawn, okay? Now the next is you're going to create a float here, which is called camera blend time, and another float called camera blend exponential. Okay, float is directly here. Create these two variables. Now you can already access those two, but in order to get the last one, go back into your main menu manager, get the player controller, and say set view target with blend. Okay, so right click on this blend function here, and now copy this blend function here, or Control X to cut it out, and now go into your view target and paste it in. It's going to be gray. Right click and create variable blend func, which will create this variable for you. Alright, now you got this new variable. Make sure it's instance editable and expose on spawn, just like all other variables that you set here. You're going to be setting view target values. This is a view target here on the side. You see, blend func, camera blend time, exponential, sound. Same for the button here. You have your goal rotation, you have everything set up like this. The tag that you have to set individually for each button, the animation speed for the speed of the animation of the button rotation. We have the animation speed of the camera blend time. Alright. Now let's close this up. We have all variables on the view target. Let's do the final thing. Now you can drag actually out of the cast and say get transition sound. Yeah. Alright, right click that and convert to validated get. If it's valid, you're gonna play sound 2D. Play sound 2D, hook up your volume multiplier. If you don't have one yet, right click, promote to variable. Okay, now hook this up, not valid and valid, after the sound here, into your set view target with blend. And the new target here is going to be the target actor. The blend time here is now, what we're going to do is, over here we have set a variable as BP view. We're going to get this variable actually and get these variables now from there, as you can see here. So you can just say get blend, or not even get blend func, and then you route it in and you get the blend time and you route it in. Okay, so that's how you set that up. You're gonna end up with a function looking like this. Log outgoing can be true, and the arriving sound, if you get this variable here again, paste it, and then if you have created it, the arriving sound, right click this and make it a validated get, and then you can, you know, paste this play sound node here and put the sound in case it's there. And I added a re-triggerable delay here in between, because when you click something while it's doing something, you want to prevent that there is an arriving sound in mid-air for no reason. Okay, so that's why the re-triggerable delay is there. Awesome. I think we are through everything. Let me double check everything. Let me show you everything that you have created and let me fly over it. This is the optional creation of the camera. This is the handle button functionality. make sure that it is looking like yours, or yours is looking like this, so the functionality is working. We have the begin play. We have the loop. We have these. They are all. We get the 3D mesh button. We get hovered and unhovered. We got clicked and reset button. We got the camera pawn and the view target. All right. Okay, congratulations, you made it here. Let's actually set everything up so it's working and you can play around with it and do whatever you wish. First of all, place your buttons and make sure that your main menu manager is placed in the level. If you followed the camera as well, then you can drag and place view targets. The view targets instantly show you where they're looking at, and these view targets can be used to be assigned. Okay, now click on the manager. The very first thing, like imagine you're in a main menu and you don't see the main menu. The first click decides that you see it. This is the first thing, and it's going to interpolate to the target, so you're just gonna select any target you placed in the level. When you hit play and you click on that, it's gonna go to that target. Okay, so let's say, okay, nice, create another one. We want to go from here to there maybe, and have another view target there as well. That's going to look at this there. Okay, and then we would say, if we press this button, okay, where you want to go, target view after click, click on this, select this view in this button, or where you want to go. I want to go back to this actor here. Okay, so this is then gonna go to this actor. How fast they are doing it is here in the blend time. So this is how many seconds it takes until they are there. 2 seconds. 4 seconds. So the first one takes 2 seconds now. It's a little slower. And the next one takes 4 seconds. And the other one, 2 again. So that's how you set up the main menu. Straightforward, it's actually easy. Sorry for it being so long. I was not sure if this is easy or not. I hope you got everything together. If you have any questions, please just let me know. So that's it from the tutorial. I hope you have had no troubles or issues integrating anything. You understood everything. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below. Have a great day and stay creative.